Welcome, everyone, to Swoon-Worthy, the podcast. We're just over halfway through with our second season of the podcast, which covers beloved period dramas, both movies and TV series. I'm Carly, your co host, along with my sister Kayla. Our very second podcast episode of season one is actually our most listened to episode so far. And in that one, we covered Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, her most famous story. We've also done episodes on Emma and Sense and Sensibility in season one. And then we covered Northanger Abbey earlier this season. So we are making our way through Jane Austen's work. She will always be one of our favorite storytellers. Today, we are going to focus on Mansfield Park, Austen's third published novel, published in 1814. It came after Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice, and right before Emma. Okay. I feel like this one's going to be a bit different to go through, Kayla. It's not her most popular novel nowadays. It was popular at one point. It's a bit of a Cinderella story, in my opinion. Kayla, what are your initial thoughts on Mansfield Park?
So I remember I have memories of watching it when I was younger, but then I haven't watched it for like years since then. And so I rewatched it last night and I loved it. Like it's so good. It's very different from her other ones, like I feel like the other ones are just they're very similar, but this is about a girl who's it's so sad. Like, she's from a very poor family and she's has to go away from them, and that first scene when she's a little girl and she gets to that place and her aunt is so mean to her, like that's just so sad.
Okay, yeah. So that's an introduction to the movie we're going to cover, Mansfield Park from 1999. This one is written and directed by Patricia Rozema. And I will say, Kayla, we're definitely going to cover this movie, and I agree, it's a great movie. The writer director said, "This is a Patricia Rozema film. My job as an artist to provide a fresh view." So it does differ from the book quite a bit. We'll get into that. I think they did update it for modern audiences a bit, but then they still capture the true essence, I think, of Jane Austen's work. And as you said, it is so sad in the beginning. So this poor little girl, Frances Fanny Price, she lives with 10 in a family of 10 children. She's the eldest daughter. And it's a port city, Portsmouth, actually, in the UK. And she's taken away, and her mother doesn't even tell her how long she'll be gone or what she's doing. I'm sure that part was
Well, yeah,
sad.
I mean, she was like, okay, and you'll write them and tell them when I need to come back, right? And her mom just like turned around like, no, no.
I know. She's probably never left home before. She's 10 years old in the book, and I'm sure in the movie too. And this poor girl just doesn't even know what's gonna take place in her life. But in the movie, she's a strong little girl. She kind of stays outside for a while waiting until someone finds her, and then she's taken up to her attic room. This is what I mean. It feels kind of like a little Cinderella to me. Do you agree?
Well, yeah, I mean, she was shoved up there in that attic and there was no bed in there. I noticed when she first went up there, they were just like, here you are. But
Yeah,
she,
and later in the movie, the uncle comes up there and is like, "There's no fire. Is this always the case?" And she's kind of like, "I have a warm shawl." So it just feels very sad.
but she quickly meets Edmund and they hit it off. And at least she's got someone who cares about her and wants to be her friend and her little buddy.
Yeah, her little confidant, someone who pays attention to her, a friend. Kayla, I you and I haven't talked much about this movie adaptation, and I know you may not know this, so I'm just going to put it out there. Do you know how Edmund and Fanny know each other, how they're related?
Well, yeah, so I kind of when I was watching this, I was like, well, so she's got to be like related to them because she was going there to be with her aunt. Like they've got to be
Yes.
like cousins or something.
They are in fact first
They're
cousins.
first cousins first. First.
Their mothers are sisters.
Wait. It's just gross.
They even got the same actress to play both of their mothers in this movie.
What?
Her mother that you see in the very beginning of the movie, and she looks all
Yeah.
scraggly because she's poor. And then the
A
mother,
different actress?
it's the same
I mean,
actress.
that's the same actress? What?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I've been bamboozled.
I know. I waited to tell you on this because I remember back in our Pride and Prejudice episode, you kept laughing about Mr. Collins, cousin Collins proposing to Elizabeth Bennet. And you were like, oh, cousins. They were actually distant cousins
Yeah, they were
compared to
just
this.
first cousin, not even second. I mean, that's bad too. But what? I didn't even want to think about it. Like when I was
I
watching, I'm like, why did
know
you have to tell me?
because it's important for this podcast episode.
Oh, okay. Anyway, can we just like pretend like they're just
See,
like
let's do
friends?
that. Let's do that for a little bit because I agree. It's look, it was more common back then. In fact, I read that in the UK, the turning point when it was really less common was World War One. So before World War One, the Great War, it was a bit more common for cousins to marry, even first cousins. So I'm sorry, Kayla. We have to talk about it. We can't ignore that for this episode, the full episode. But let's put it aside because it's a love story.
I like really like bummed right now.
I'm so you look bummed. For our listeners, you look a
Well, okay.
little
So I mean, I've got
okay.
opinions of other people, so let's just continue.
So she has the confidant in Edmund and
Your cousin.
her cousin, and they I like the transition for her growing up. So she's so cute. The Edmund brings her some paper to write with, and she's an avid reader and writer, Fanny is. And so the transition from her to get to an 18-year-old from 10, it's her writing, and it's just I think they do that really well. It's very cute. And she breaks the fourth wall. So that's when an actor looks at the screen and it's kind of like The Office.
But she only did it at the end, right?
She does it here.
Oh, okay.
She does it here. And Kayla, did you ever see the recent Persuasion with Dakota Johnson on Netflix?
Unfortunately.
I know we're going to talk about that another time with Persuasion, but they do that in that movie. They break the fourth wall. It's a bit like, yeah, I think they were trying to do what they did in this movie, but this movie, they do it well.
Okay. Yeah, oh yeah. No, it was very subtle, but like and it was purposeful and it really fit the moment. It wasn't just like in your face, obnoxious and annoying.
Yeah. I feel like this movie has a nice flow with the cinematography and the scenes. It the same. Remember when we were talking about Emma with Gwyneth Paltrow? It's a very whimsical mood. This one, I wouldn't say it's whimsical, but it's got a nice vibe throughout where it's consistent in the feeling and the tone. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, it's definitely it's got a solid tone to it and it's consistent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I'll think of the word later, what I'm trying to say, but you're with me. I know we're on the same page. Okay, cool. So the older Fanny Price is played by Frances O'Connor. I love this actress. And in this role, she's just perfect for this role.
Oh yeah, no, she's very cute and beautiful, and she kind of to me has like a brunette Naomi Watts vibe to me.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I'll have to look into that. But no, I see what you mean. I mean, I think she embodies the character perfectly. Now they did change the character a little bit from the novel. In the novel, she's more shy even than this. She gets tired easily and is sick often, and she's a little more timid in the book. Okay. So some people don't love her character as much as other Jane Austen heroines. But I think the way they kept Fanny's essence, but upgraded a little bit. She's a little more outspoken in this. She's very morally upright. And I think it was a good choice. She's a keen listener and observer. She's trustworthy, smart. How can you not back this heroine?
Yeah, and she's very selfless. Like she doesn't want any attention at all. She's all she wants is her person, her cousin.
Her love, yes, I know, I know. Um, and do you? I almost think she feels very Elizabeth Bennet, similar to Elizabeth
I
Bennet. What do
was
you think?
getting, yeah, I was getting Elizabeth Bennet, but I was also getting Jo March.
Ooh, because of the writing.
And she's up in her little cozy attic writing, just
Oh,
like Jo March.
I like that. And another thing that the writer director did for this one, she incorporated a bit of Jane Austen, the authoress, to this role. So you know how she's writing stories and telling stories to Edmund and her sister? Those are actually Jane Austen's earlier works, her juvenilia, her early writings. So that's kind of cute.
Juvenalia. That's a new word for me.
Yeah, I think it means,
Early writings.
yeah, works produced by an author or artist while still young.
Juvenalia. Wow. Can I
It's
name some my daughter that?
I thought you were gonna name her Anoxinamun.
Anoxinamun juvenalia.
Oh
I
boy.
love it.
Okay, that's a little callback to our previous mummy episode. Oh boy. Um, yeah, so I like how you mentioned Joe March. That's a good one. And then I think she kind of reminds me of Danielle from Ever After. So she
Yeah.
has this, she sticks up for herself in this one a bit. And she gets the man in the end. Um,
For the cousin.
yes. Okay. How crazy would it be though to be sent away from your family? I mean, in this case, it was an upgrade because she has her own
Yeah, I mean,
room.
I'm always like, man, I just kind of wish I lived in the past. Like I feel like it would just be a simpler way of life. But then I think then I realize, well, actually, for a lot of people, and then a lot of people were just, if unless you had like a lot of money, you may have had to live in this type of situation where you're either in a tiny house with a bunch of siblings, dirt and bugs everywhere. I
Mhm.
hated that part where she stepped down and there was a roach that was walking by her feet. Ew. Or you have to be sent away somewhere. Luckily, she was sent to her cousin.
Yeah. Yep. Her mom's side of the family, uncles, aunts, cousins. Um, she has two aunts, right? Edmund's mother, which is she's drugged up all the time on opium. She's sleeping all the time.
Oh my gosh, that was so funny.
That's
Oh, that's the actress. Okay. So,
yes.
okay, so who was the lady who was mean to her?
Miss Norris.
Is she on?
Mrs. Norris. That's her. So the is a family of three sisters.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? And Miss Norris lived with this family too. So she's an aunt and
Okay.
she's terrible.
Well, the mean one, but then the doped up one is hilarious. And that's the same actress from the Under the Tuscan Sun, the blonde lady who gets in the water, the fountain. She plays that type of character very well.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I forgot about that, but that was one me and my mother watched a lot with Diane Lane Under the Tuscan Sun. I remember mom laughing a lot at this character. And when she wakes up at one point and is like, I'm gonna give you a litter of a pug from the litter of puppies or
She's like,
whatever.
yeah, because they were trying to talk her into marrying that guy, and she was like, and I'll give you a puppy.
No, and that actress is also she's the mother of Alice in the Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland. She's just in once you notice her, you'll start to spot her in so many things.
I love
And
they
yeah,
always
and
praise whimsical people.
yes, and her name is Lindsay Duncan. Let's talk about some of the other actors in this Mansfield Park adaptation. This is a good time to talk about that. So, Frances O'Connor, who we've been talking about, plays Fanny. She was in a movie called Timeline with um do you remember did you ever see Timeline, Kayla? 2003 with Paul Walker.
No.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting one. And then she's now a director. So her first directorial debut was this Emily Bronte movie, Emily from 2021, which is really good. And we have the elder, okay, oh no, sorry, Johnny Lee Miller. So Edmund, did you recognize him as Mr. Knightley in the 2009 Emma?
Yeah.
And he's even as recently in the Crown series as John Major. We have Tom Bertram, who plays the Edmund's older brother, played by James Purefoy.
And yeah, and he looked so familiar to me. Is he in any other thing?
He's in a lot of period dramas. I'm trying to think. He's in Vanity Fair with Reese Witherspoon, I think. He's in the Marie Antoinette series 2022 as the king. He's just in a lot of things. Mariah Bertram. So now the cousins, the girl cousins, Victoria Hamilton, and she's known for playing royalty a lot. So the actress who plays Mariah Bertram, she plays Queen Victoria in a mini series, and she plays the Queen Mother of Claire Foy in The Crown. Julia Bertram, so like the youngest cousin sister, Justine Waddell. Do you recognize her, Kayla? The Fall movie with Lee Pace. She's the main girl in that.
Her
She's
younger sister. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
she's so pretty, I think.
Yeah, she is.
And then Kayla, Mr. Rushworth, so the one who's engaged to Mariah, did you recognize him?
Oh
We
yeah.
wouldn't have recognized him a long time ago, but
Yes, that's Mr. Crawley.
yeah, Lord grant them Mr. Crawley and Downton Abbey. Yeah, Hugh Bonneville is his name. And never would have known him when we were younger, but now he's so recognizable. So it's fun to go back and watch him. And he's definitely comic relief in this one. And the visitors to Mansfield Park, we have Mary Crawford, played by Embeth Davids. Did you recognize the Mary Crawford character, actress?
Yes, she was in Bridget Jones as the
Mhm.
lady who was after Mr. Darcy,
Natasha.
Natasha. And she's been in a lot of stuff. She always plays like she's typecast as this type of person, like the wealthy stick up her ass kind of lady.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Um, for the most part, she plays these kind of roles, but then she's also, before this movie, she did a nice role. She was Miss Honey in Matilda.
Oh, that's right. Oh my gosh, she's a good actress because she's so that's why I don't even picture her because she's usually those other characters, but in that one she's so sweet.
I know it's so she is yeah, you got to give it to her for being a good actress because that's the best role in the movie. I know. I used to be told when I was younger that I looked like her as a
Oh, no, you do.
I looked like Matilda with my bangs. Oh boy. Yeah.
You were so cute as a little girl.
Okay. So are you. Okay.
Oh, you were really cute. You were like a little, I
Know
don't,
it all.
yeah, you were just like, okay.
Okay. And then Henry Crawford, the brother of Mary
Jurassic Park
Crawford.
3.
Yes, before I could say you wanted it. No, that's fine. No, it's good. It's good. No, Alessandro Nivola, Jurassic Park 3. Love him in that
He
role
is
in Jurassic Park
very
3.
handsome. He's probably the most swoon-worthy character of this film.
I know. And then
And
for him,
honestly, like, probably should have just gave it a shot with him. Just try, hope for the best. He was so endearing. He like came in there with flowers and was like so happy. Like he can't help it that he attracts attention from a lot of people. He's just that charismatic guy, that handsome, he's not his fault.
okay, hold on.
I'm just kidding.
No, I love that. And I'm in agreement with you because when you watch this movie, whether it's been a few years or the first time, you're not even thinking of Jane Austen's story if you know it. He plays the part so well, and he really makes an effort. You think maybe he does.
Well, I mean, honestly, I feel like she was probably right, but also she made it worse because she kind of drove him to that other chick.
Ooh, okay.
Like I don't think he really would have
This
done
is a
that.
question I have for you later. We're getting into it early, but okay. I'm trying to think. Should we just go there?
Well, we're already there.
Okay. Okay. So let's talk about this. So Henry Crawford is very, very swoon-worthy.
Now,
And
now that I know that that's her first cousin, my opinion is even more leaning towards this guy.
I know. But okay, hold on. So he shows attention to the Bertram sisters at first. He's he should go for the younger one who's unattached, but he goes for Mariah, who is engaged to Mr. Crawley. So, right? They're engaged, but you could tell there's an attraction there. So they're doing this play in the household together. And in that play, they're able to flirt because even under the nose of Mr. Crawley, okay, Mr. Rushworth is the name of the character, they're able to flirt. And in different adaptations and in the book, it's different varying degrees of flirtation, but she's kind of maybe an easy target for him, I would say. She's a little more, open. And he says at one point, an engaged woman is always more agreeable than a disengaged. She is satisfied with herself. So he does kind of flirt with Mariah. Then Mariah sees him kind of make an effort with Fanny in the library. So she like rushes off and gets married to Mr. Rushworth. Okay. So Mariah's out of the picture. And then Henry Crawford pays a lot of attention to Fanny, whether it's walking with her, reading out loud to her, dancing with her in the ball scene. And you're saying, Kayla, you think he was maybe genuine? Do you think he just likes the chase though?
And I was also thinking that last night. I was like, I think he just wants her because she's, she's playing hard to get, and
Mm-hmm.
and
That's one side of it.
I think I'm just annoyed that it didn't work out with him. Like he wasn't better for her because
Yeah.
then she has to go off and be with her cousin.
Well, she's okay. So now listen, Fanny has been in love with her cousin forever. Okay, I can't say it like okay, Fanny has been in love with Edmund forever, and they're so well suited for each other. He cared for her when no one else did.
They have a
She's just
lot of similarities, you could say.
okay, Caleb. Yes. But her heart is lost to him. And so she doesn't even see this guy, but Fanny is smart and she saw them flirting in the play, even though Mariah's engaged. So she calls him a rake, which if you're watching Bridgerton, the rake word comes up a lot. Um, he's a scoundrel. He says things to charm others. He's very charming. Oh, I loved his first thing when he came into the room and it showed all of the cousins and they're being introduced. And he's like, well, you certainly seem like a dreary lot. Like, he's just funny. I don't know.
That. Wait, what does rake mean?
Okay. A rake, by definition, a garden tool. No.
I love that. That's pretty funny.
Okay, a rake by definition is either a garden tool with a long handle and prongs at the end, or a dissolute or immoral person, especially a man who indulges in vices or lacks sexual restraint. A dissolute or immoral person, a man who indulges in vices or lacks sexual restraint. He's a rake, which a lot of people in Bridgerton are described as.
Okay, well, how old are these characters?
Okay, I'll tell you. So Fanny's 18 and Edmund is 6 years older than her. Henry Crawford, let's see. Does it say? Does it say? It just says he's a young man of considerable fortune.
He's probably in his early 20s or something.
Yeah, I think mid 20s.
Okay.
So Fanny's 18, Edmund's 24, and
I'm really
he's
trying. I'm just really trying to find something to redeem him, but at the end of the day, I know deep down that he's a rake and he was after the chase.
I know, but he does put up a good fight because I love it. So Fanny goes back to her home and she's like, oh my gosh, this is sad. I want to be back at Mansfield Park. But while she's there, he makes this grand gesture. He brings, for one, he brings this like really cool firework musical thing,
With
releases some
doves.
doves. And it's early in the morning. I don't think she liked how early in the morning it was.
Yeah.
Um, but and then he brings, yeah, and then I do love the scene too where they're walking like on the not the boardwalk, but like the jetty type thing, and by the ocean, and they're getting along, their banter's going back and forth. She's a
Edmund writes her a letter that's saying like, "Oh, I really like what's her name again?
Mary.
I really like Mary. She's great." And she starts crying and he's there to comfort her and console her. And she needed that at that time. And then she finally agrees and he's so happy. But then
He's so
the next
happy.
morning he comes in with flowers. He's so happy. He's like dancing with her. And she's like, "Stop it." He's like, "What the hell?" And then she's like, "Yeah, I was too quick with that. I changed my mind." And he's like, "Are you kidding me right now?" And he just storms out. And that was that.
I like your summary. That was a great recap and true, pretty much accurate. Kayla, did you know that Jane Austen, the authoress herself, accepted a proposal of marriage from a man she had known for a while since childhood, only to retract her acceptance the next day?
Really?
Mm-hmm.
This was in the book, that part too.
No. So this is another example of the writer director taking something from Jane Austen's life and putting it in the movie that's not in the book.
Okay, so what happened in the book that was interesting?
A lot of things. Um,
What happened?
okay, so Fanny is never tempted to actually accept Mr. Crawford's proposal, Henry's proposal, right? Um, but he does court her, if you will, and this is done maybe a little more accurately to the book in the 2007 movie, which we'll talk about a little bit. But yeah, but then Kayla, he also, okay, so after all this, in the movie Mansfield Park, 1999, our Fanny character catches Henry in the act with Mariah doing the deed, even though she's married. That's not in the book, but they do run off together in the book. So you don't like see that, like to see that, for her to walk into that, this poor innocent 18-year-old, like that is pretty bad.
Yeah, that was definitely a Hollywood edition.
It was. And then that there a lot happens in that scene because then she goes and tells Edmund to go
I
look
know.
at.
I was like, wow, what a night. Because it was just like one thing after the next. Like the brother's dying, the two are canoodling, they're found out. Then the cousin goes in there and then the next day, Mary tries
Whoa,
to
hold on, no, hold on. Wait, but you missed the big part. Edmund goes in and sees the two of them, his sister and Henry. And then he goes back to Fanny to comfort her because he's being empathetic. He's like the only other empathetic character other than Fanny. So he's like, oh my gosh, my poor Fanny has seen this and must have scarred her. And so he's comforting her.
wait, can we just take a moment? You were like, my poor Fanny.
Because I didn't want to say cousin. Okay.
My poor Fanny.
So, and I think I know some Fannies myself. Okay, anyways. And then,
Oh, you know some
oh
Fannies?
my gosh, Kayla, they almost kiss. And it's a very passionate little moment where they almost kiss. So then it's like her mind is just like, and she just discovered the elder brother's drawings. Another thing they brought, we're going to get back to the whole resolution of the love story. Okay, listeners, we're all over the place, but we're passionate. We're feeling this story. Okay. So the novel Mansfield Park mentions slavery often, but they don't get into it. What they do say is that Sir Thomas Bertram, okay, he does have a business in Antigua, and obviously that's going to involve slavery. They did put it a lot as a theme in this movie, right? Sort of the post-colonialism, slavery, slave trade. And I have mixed feelings about that, because do they do it justice by putting it in kind of sparsely? This is a serious topic, or should they have left it out? Or is it good to mention because this did really happen during this time period?
Yeah, I mean,
She does, make a point to stand up against slavery. Yeah, but then, and I do think it is impactful when she's looking at the drawing. So Sir Thomas Bertram, and then the older son is named Thomas as well. Tom is part of the family business and goes over to Antigua and witnesses horrible, violent things and draws them, is where they're going with this. And she finds the drawings and she knows this guy is troubled. He's like drinking a lot. And this is the movie version. He's drinking a lot. He's dealing with, I don't think he stands by these violent acts. He doesn't like what his father's doing because his father's actually represented in the drawing. It's horrible. And then, so this is another thing where Fanny, who's probably a pretty innocent mind, 18-year-old, sees this. And then that same night, Kayla, the same events happen where she catches Henry in the act.
I
So
know
it's like
that was a really rough night for her.
such a rough night. Um,
This is off
yeah.
topic, but when she
Mhm.
goes back to her old house,
Yeah.
and her dad comes up
Oh,
and
yeah.
hugs her, they're kind of her sister has like a weird look on her face.
Yeah.
What do you
They
think
do.
that was about?
Well, I think the father's kind of gross in this one. The uncle's a little off. I don't know. That must have been the writer director's choice to kind of put some of these darker elements. And I'm sure this kind of stuff went on. I mean, I think back to answer your question. I mean, this poor woman has over 10 children
I know, and
and
she came back and she's a full-grown adult now, and her mom's holding another little
baby.
3-year-old, 4-year-old. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. At one point, Fanny's there, older Fanny, and you can hear the father like calling to the mother, and it's like,
Mhm.
I know.
Let's move on.
Okay. In the novel, okay, sorry. In the book, Kayla, Tom gets gravely ill because he fell off a horse. So, there were some choices here, and I have mixed feelings on that if they're right or wrong. It did go on. Slavery was at this time a hot topic and an issue. And so, yeah,
Mhm.
historically accurate to put it in the film. Um, okay, so you're saying that Tom is sick on his deathbed, the older son, and all this has happened. And the next morning, you were saying Mary Crawford starts to.
Well, she's kind of devising a plan because
Mhm.
they're all just kind of sitting there like, well, what's gonna happen now? Like, what are we gonna do if he dies, right? Is that what they were talking about?
They're kind of thinking that. And then also, nope, Mariah and Henry
Oh,
have run off together. And it's in the gossip column of the
oh,
newspaper. Very lady whistle down Bridgerton, right?
I know. And didn't her husband put it in there like he told them?
Yeah, and in the book he sues her for divorce. So yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, she just messed up. And then he ends up not marrying her.
Mm-hmm. But okay, so Mary Crawford is with the family during the reading of this newspaper, and Tom's on his deathbed, and they're thinking. She starts to strategize and get up, and she oversteps. She really oversteps by standing in front of there, shushing the father, just saying like, you know what? We're gonna slowly get my brother and Mariah back into society by hosting all these parties and dinners. And then that's where Fanny's like, how is a poor clergyman, Edmund, going to host all these parties? Because she's kind of accepted the fact that these two might get married, right? Her cousin and Mary. And then Mary says, well, if Tom is not able to recover, Edmund will be the heir, and wealth and consequence can fall into no more deserving hands. So she's accepted. She's like, let's accept Tom's death. Let's give the money to my intended over here, Edmund. And then she tells Fanny, oh, and Fanny, it's your fault that Mariah and Henry ran off together.
I know. She's like, this could be. It's like, what are you doing? And then Edmund's just like, get out.
He finally sees her for what she is.
Yeah. Which honestly, before that, she seemed pretty decent and nice, right?
Mm-hmm. She did seem okay. I mean, definitely jealous of Edmund and Fanny.
Okay.
But jealousy is like not, that's kind of whatever. No, I can see where you're going with that. She didn't really seem too bad, but all the while, she's probably scheming a little bit.
See,
I think.
I'm so bad at reading intentions.
And I remember when we were talking Sense and Sensibility, Kayla, we were talking about one of the characters there kind of scheming, and you weren't sure that's what. And that's why I think Jane Austen always still resonates with modern audiences, from these are timeless stories because we'll always relate it to things that happen in real life. And yeah, for sure. So he turns her away. He's like, okay, I see her for what she is, go away. And we're gonna have some resolution to this romance now. So a few minutes ago, we were talking about Mary being jealous of Fanny. And at the ball scene that they have, Mary says, why don't you admit that you are in love with Fanny Price? Right. And he says, there are as many forms of love as there are moments in time. And that's a Jane Austen quote, which is really nice.
That's a beautiful quote.
Another beautiful quote that's not from Jane Austen, but it's in this movie, is when Henry catches Fanny on the stairs and is like trying to convince her to, be with him. And she's like, he says, there is only one happiness in life, to love and be loved. And that kind of reminds me of Moulin Rouge, which we talked about recently. The greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved. But that's a George Sand quote. And then that's when Fanny is like, you're such a fine speaker, you might actually convince yourself. And he's like, Fanny, you're killing me.
Oh, yeah.
She says, no man dies of love but on the stage. So she's very quick-witted. That's the Elizabeth Bennet bit of her that I think people like in this movie.
It's so satisfying, that whole time period where she's just like this really dashing guy is after her and she's like not interested. Like there's something so satisfying about that.
Mm-hmm.
He just keeps going. He keeps trying, but then you're also kind of like, oh no, she's gonna give in and he's gonna just backstab her.
She only gave in for maybe 12 hours.
No, she was very smart, and I don't think there's not a lot of women that could withstand his charms. I mean, he's very charming.
That is a very good point, because I think I would have been totally taken in by him.
I think we both would have.
Yeah, I think so.
I would have been like, okay, well, it's worth a shot,
Let's see how it goes. I trust you. Oh man. Okay, so the resolution. The older son, Tom, he survives. So Mary, by killing him off, was a little too hasty there. Mariah and Mrs. Norris, the mean aunt, live together and suffer with each other because they made poor choices. Susan. Okay, so Kayla, the sweet little sister of Fanny, comes to live at Mansfield Park now, which is wonderful. That actress, I love that actress. Did you recognize her at all? The cute little blonde sister?
Yeah, I mean, she looks like the actress that was in Tristan and Isolde.
That is the actress who was interested in
Oh, well, there you go.
Sophia Myles. I love her.
Oh, she's really pretty.
She's so pretty. And so that's kind of nice. And she's with um, Julia Bertram. In the book, Julia Bertram runs off with the Yates character. And the Yates character we've not mentioned, he's just a friend of someone, the brother. He was Michael Gregson in Downton Abbey. That's the actor there, in case you recognize him. Okay. Edmund confesses his love for Fanny. As a man loves a woman, as a hero loves a heroine.
As a cousin loves a cousin.
Yeah. And I feel maybe I shouldn't have told you this until the very end of our podcast, Kayla. Now I'm regretting it because it's a good love story.
No, I'm glad I know. It's better that I know.
You had to know. Um it, it's tough because sometimes when I'm watching this, I can totally ignore the fact, and they're just the best suited couple, and he's so sweet. The actor Johnny Lee Miller is great.
Yeah, I mean, they did not mention it in the movie at all.
No.
You're supposed to know, I guess.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
The details you've mentioned sometimes you like to. Okay, sorry, never
I
mind.
have ADD, so there's that.
It's a beautiful ending, and in the end he also tries to get her writing published, which is also kind of more like a Jane Austen nod. And that's the end of Mansfield Park 1999. The costumes we haven't talked about. So this is set in 1806. I think the costumes are well done and very representative of each of the characters' sort of class and rank. We have Fanny looking pretty drab in some of the scenes. Okay. But then she does wear a beautiful ball gown when she gets to go to the ball. It's kind of like her coming out ball. It's this white Regency high-waisted empire waisted gown, off-white maybe, and it has some pretty little decorations in the middle, and a little tassel. And I've always loved that dress that she wears. Costumes were by Andrea Gaylor, who designed costumes for many BBC period dramas. So Andrea Gaylor also won an Emmy for Jane Eyre BBC miniseries in 2006 and was an Emmy nominee for Bleak House 2005, and then designed for another Jane Austen BBC adaptation, Persuasion 2007. I feel like it feels pretty authentic with the muted colors. Okay. The hair is up for all of the women throughout the show. I mean, that's something that people who like their period dramas to be very historically accurate complain about. And there's never hair down really unless they're in their
Well,
nightgown.
unless they're in their nightgown, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then we have Mary Crawford, who is a bit more stylish, a bit more in with London society. And she wears some lovely costuming that reminds me a bit of the Anya Taylor-Joy Emma, with the ruff, the collar, and the smart hat, and the police. She's just, yeah.
So I love that first dress she wears when they first get to the house. I love that outfit. It was beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do love her clothing. And then oftentimes I think the modern maybe look for her was she's still wearing the empire waisted gown, but her sleeves are kind of lacy. And it just kind of shows that she's a bit more modern and sophisticated without being too, period inaccurate. I want to now mention the TV movie from 2007, Mansfield Park. Kayla, BBC basically commissioned 3 Jane Austen movies the same year, 2007. Northanger Abbey, which we love and raved about earlier this season. This one, a Mansfield Park adaptation, and Persuasion 2007, which is probably the next Jane Austen story that we'll cover. And it's actually my favorite novel of Jane Austen's. So BBC commissioned 3 movies at the same year. I think Northanger Abbey is probably the best. That's our favorite. But then they did this Mansfield Park one with Billie Piper as Fanny Price, who's a singer and in the series Penny Dreadful. Blake Ritson as Edmund. So Kayla, back when we watched Emma with Romola Garai from 2009, you said you thought the Elton character was cute and like the Mr. Knightley character. He plays Edmund in this Mansfield Park,
Oh,
2007.
okay.
Blake Ritson. And Blake Ritson is married to the Sense and Sensibility actress from the BBC miniseries who plays Eleanor. So it's like, I love period drama relationships. Okay. And then we have Haley Atwell, who plays Mary Crawford in this one. Haley Atwell is one of my favorite period drama actresses.
I like her in Brideshead.
I do too. And in The Duchess, she plays the friend to Keira Knightley. I don't know. I think she's a great actress. And she plays Mary very well. And let's see, there's some great actors in that one. It's a good, it's a pretty good TV movie. I don't think people love it that much. People don't talk about it that much. It's a bit truer to the book, perhaps. There's no spark. I feel like there lacks a spark in this movie. Um, but I do think the acting is good and it's worth a watch. It's on YouTube actually. And then Mansfield Park 1999 is on Amazon Prime Video right now if you want to watch it. And then I think there's a 1983 BBC Mansfield Park. I've not seen that one. So, Kayla, after all is said and done, we've gone through, I know you've kind of gone back and forth. Who should Fanny Price have ended up with, Edmund or Henry Crawford?
I mean, it's obvious that that time, taking that time period into account, Edmund is the one for her.
There you
And
go.
I think nowadays she definitely probably would have found someone else, but that doesn't even matter.
Yeah, it's tough because back in that time period, you were maybe more confined to your social circles. And if you were like Fanny Price, you had poverty was a factor. And you were also Fanny was very shy. She liked being at home. She was a little bit maybe Beth March, or Joe March, and she didn't really get out. So Edmund was the one for her. And it is a sweet story. And it's just interesting. It is interesting. Jane Austen did do the cousin story in this one of her novels. It's the only novel where she really features the main protagonist being first cousins. So we mentioned earlier, Mr. Collins was a distant cousin of Mr. Bennet. Um, so Kayla, in that one, Mr. Collins and Mr. Bennet, the father of Elizabeth, they shared the same grandparents. Okay. So Mr. Bennet's father and Mr. Collins' mother were siblings. Another mention of cousins. So do you remember, Kayla, in the 2005 Pride and Prejudice? Um, Judi Dench plays Lady Catherine de Bourgh, and she's the aunt of Mr. Darcy. And she mentions how it was always their intention for her daughter and her nephew, Mr. Darcy, to marry. That's why she doesn't like Elizabeth Bennet, because it's interrupting their plans for the first cousins. So Mr. Darcy was going to marry his first cousin.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's an interesting little fact. But luckily, Mr. Darcy found Elizabeth Bennet, and we all know how that went. So, all right. So that's it. We have covered Mansfield Park by Jane Austen, focusing heavily on the 1999 movie adaptation starring Frances O'Connor and Johnny Lee Miller. We hope you enjoy our heated conversation about who Fanny should have ended up with, and continue to share your thoughts and feedback on your favorite Jane Austen characters, favorite Jane Austen adaptations. We just love hearing all about your favorites too. Remember to like and subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts, on Instagram. Our Instagram is at Swoon-Worthy Podcast.
And then also go ahead and share our podcast with anybody you may know who loves period films.
Yeah, we love the support lately. We really appreciate it.
And go ahead and just leave us a 5-star review if you've got a minute. We'd really appreciate it.
We'd also like to invite you all to join us on Patreon so that you can watch the videos of us recording and tune in that way. Bye.